All right, on this upcoming assignment, you have a little bit to do with tables, and depending on how you roll with web development and HTML moving forward, you might have a lot to do with them. They're a very important aspect for just kind of displaying data that's tabular. In the past, they were also used a lot for like layout of web pages. That's kind of frowned upon. You can hide the borders, and it gives you columns and rows, and so the person doesn't maybe know that it's a table that's helping to format like a navigation pane and an information pane and like that. But the real use for tables is to put data in to a web page in a format that has just a wide variety of ways that you can go. They can be by hand, and I've asked you to do your first exercise to do this by hand by typing it. It can be tedious as all get out, especially if they're big with all the formatting and everything that goes on, because there are so many tags, as we're going to see in this couple of examples. But good to see the basics once, but then we'll use a table generator that almost makes generating the table a little more like using Excel. All right, but the best way to get started, and you've maybe read in the tutorial, this is just an example right out of the chapter that I've asked you to look at, and this is the body, start of the body of a thing that just basically produces this particular table. Okay, so nothing dramatic, but if you follow what goes on, a table starts with a table element. Right, so here comes a table. It turns out that this border equal 1 says put a 1 border around it. That turns out to be not standard anymore. You'll have to use a style declaration to get a border and a border width and a border type and that kind of thing. But anyway, we're making a table. Some of the elements that can be within a table element are a caption. As a default, this table caption appeared at the top, but you can, with a attribute to the caption, make it go. I think of captions going on the bottom of a table. But so the caption is not part of the table. It kind of describes the table. It's outside the table. Tables can have headers. And so T-head, and you're only allowed one T-head section. It can have multiple rows, but if you have multiple T-head sections, that's sort of not standard. It should be just one header. It doesn't talk about column headings. It talks about kind of over all headers to the table, and you say, I'm starting on my header here. Same, you can have footers. And notice that, they have the head and the foot before they show the data, yet the footer is understood to go at the bottom, even though you define it here, and the header's at the top. But that is at the top. I think if you change these around, I think you have to define the header, the footer before the body to be standard. All right, but there's a footer section, and then there's the body of the table. Okay, and within the body, you can have column headings, and you have data, and they only really have one row of data, but usually have lots of rows of data to fall under the column headings. Now, let's sort of unpack what goes on in each one of these sections, and there's sort of this thing. TR says I'm defining a new row, and it ends with a /tr. So the header has one row, the footer has one row, and the body turns out to have two rows. Okay, and I can see by the formatting. Let's take this inside, where this body cell, one body, those would be the data of this table. And so to make up a data cell, you start with TD, and you put the text, and it can be numeric, that goes, that you want for the cell. Then you end it, and then if you want another column or cell of data in that row, you have another TD tag that has that, and at the end. So you can see we just get tags upon tags. When you walk through it and look at it, okay, it makes sense. I see why they're all there, but I know working with them by hand like this for any kind of size table can just be a little bit maddening. So one thing to look at the most detailed version is that this table is 2 cells wide at its maximum, because there's times when you can merge columns and have them go, and they do that with the header and footer, and you say how many columns I want to span with that, and those will always be left to right. But how do I know how many columns there are. It's look at the most detailed, and the most detailed line had 2 data cells. Now I said this header, these were column headers. Well, how did I know that this, because it's in the body, were column heads, and this was meant to be body data in the body? It's because of the use of this TH rather than TD. Think of that as table column header, not a T head, but kind of the data that goes in there. And so it's a column header, but the TH says kind of don't consider me data. And this helps if somebody does like web scraping and that kind of thing, that they know, okay, ignore that. That's not a data point. It would look the same and probably scan and pass muster the same, I think, if you put TD. But to be kind of appropriate, you're telling the reader of your HTML here, that's a column header. It's in a row in the body, but that's header information, not data. Okay. In the footer or the header, they're all in a row. That's where they said, okay, we have data. Now you might say, well, the header itself isn't data, but that is information. Okay. At least this is understood here. So we have a TD, we have a tag, but the col span 2 says span 2 columns with this. And you can center or right justify. You can do all kinds of formatting. This is sort of the default layout, but that's what that col span equal 2 does. It says this guy goes over 2 columns, and the footer goes over 2 columns. And so when that gets generated, it comes out like this. Something I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll even show you mine, where you can go look when you do this assignment, when your website, we have the About Me, and I ask you to put a section with academic plans and put your course schedule for this academic year. That would be last fall, and maybe you didn't have anything. This spring, which you have at least 1 course, and summer, maybe you don't have anything planned. And I'm not going to check if it's your real schedule, but a few lines in there. But the idea was for you to make a table that's all about you, and kind of to learn the ropes. It needs to kind of come out like this. I spell out the specs, but notice that these rows here kind of span the entire width. They have a col span of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, to kind of span the whole bit. This, where it's an online, we don't have a day and time and location, so the col span, and I'm going to show you the source. You can right-click on this. You can go to this URL to get it, so you can see mine, and if it helps you maybe to make a start. I'll never know if you copy and paste it. But again, I'd encourage you to maybe do the one by hand, but I'll show you a HTML generator here shortly. So the col span on the online courses was 2, and that understood it did these. And since we had a column, span 2, it knew this would appear in the 5th column. This format's a little adaptive. If the screen gets a little narrower, you look on a phone, it does a pretty good job of, kind of taking things. It looks great there, looks so there, looks, and I don't know what to suggest on really. We'll talk about adaptive HTML. If somebody's trying to look at this on a phone, turn it sideways, I guess. And if you do want to peek at what that looks like, I'm going to now go view the page source, and you can see, so I have a section with a heading in it, but here's the table. Oh, by the way, to get a border around a table, you can see what I did. You really need to define 3 things in the style. You might remember this guy, excuse me, is a little older of a spec. I think that column border equal 1 is outmoded, but you need to define a border width, a border color, and a border style. To get a border, and this would put it around the outside of the whole table. And I think that's what I ask. If you want borders on the inside, you can do this. I put the caption. I'm giving away all the tricks, but I wanted the caption to appear on the bottom, so we can do that. It just was a style thing that you did, and you have a header, a col span of 5, span all 5 columns, and there's course schedule. I have a body, then I have a row that is, this TH says, well, this is kind of like column headings. but I want to span all 5, and that's where we got fall 2023 to span all 5. And I want you to come up with a color that looks like the season, so sort of orange-ish coral, falling leaves for fall and things like that. Those column headings, that's just like right out of the book that we just looked at, TH values. And here's my first data row, and so every bit of information we see is a TD element. This on the one where it's online, it's got that call span too, so it appears, and on it goes. And that's a fair amount of HTML for what goes. And I did do it all by hand just to convince myself it wasn't too onerous. At the end of the day, don't, if it's real obvious you generated this, if there's a lot of kind of style in CSS that's programmed, I might take off a little bit. Make it look pure and simple this one time. All right, but I also put a link to this, and there's many other ways to generate tables, and every web thing looks at them. I guess I can't get rid of that little ad up there, but we're paying for it. But this generator lets you generate HTML tables, and so and as we're going to see, a couple of ways to get started. But you could do a file in a new table, and maybe you want it 2x4. And it creates. And if you've used Excel, then you're kind of maybe used to all this. Let's see, table, there's size. You can change the size. You can clear the table out, clear the formatting, turn it around, work with how much spacing there is. That is, maybe you just know you're going to do something that takes a little wider. I'm not going to teach you this tool. I think it's almost self-explanatory in how you do it. You can control how the text is aligned, center, right in a particular column. You can remove the column. You can move the column left. So those are my column headings. And on it goes. And so it's a little performing. You say, oh gosh, what I wanted for this row was to be centered and bold-faced. There it goes. And down here, it's generating the HTML that into the thing. Okay, I've got the table that I want, but I've got to say embed it into a document. I think there's file, and well, you can just copy that. There's copy to clipboard. So you copy that to clipboard. You could go up to the go to your page if you're using VS Code, wherever you're doing it, and then you embed that table, the HTML. I'm just showing you that it's HTML wherever it goes. Okay, and so for this one, it is generated, and this is the kind of thing that it is generating some some style tags that help it control all this, because things are going, and and here are the the constant styles obviously generated are fine, because I would say do that, and you say do not generate CSS, and I don't think you're going to get as it won't have all that formatting. Okay, so if you want the formatting, you're going to have to keep it there. I'm not sure what compact mode does too. Another thing I ask you to do using this is, a lot of times we have some data. I'm going to import our class roster. I think I have a version that's CSV. I think I give you this guy. Let's see, course dev. I should have practiced this first. Do I don't have a CSV of it. Oh, dang, I should have made a CSV file somewhere. Oh, I'll go ahead and, where was I even before? All right, just watch me here. I could pause the video. It'll take a second, be quicker to do this. So let's go out here, and I keep all my good stuff out in my course dev, and this is us. And Okay, yeah, I hate this, how this kind of thing works. It's not as, it's Microsoft trying to be helpful. There we are, finally, and it's not. I want to do it in course dev and this course, but I want to change it as a CSV, right? So that's a comma separated values. It's just a format. All right. So it doesn't support some things, but what it'll do is just save this active sheet. All right. And so now I was in here in this middle of using this, and now I'm going to choose file. Should have done this ahead of time. And in course dev at AIS 2220, I can bring in, any, and a CSV is just a tabular file, and it does a pretty good job of formatting this thing right off the bat. I think I ask you to kind of boldface and center, work, column headings, maybe do something with colors. There even is it row? Where was it here? Merged. Yeah, you can border. There's a way to, and now I've missed it to kind of get it. So what we wanted was different colors for the alternate rows. Let's see, text color, background color of selected cells. Well, that's cells, but oh man, I should have practiced a little bit. Split. Maybe select the whole table. So that's how to get everything. I swear there was a little way that was real quick and easy that would do it. That's kind of choosing the colors. Oh, darn it. But anyway, it's pretty easy to use. I will just maybe send you a note on what you got to click to get it to do the, sometimes just for readability, it's nice to have one cell and one row, one color, and one row another. I'll put that in a little note rather than stop right now. All right, so that's working with tables. Then you generate that and embed it. So I hope that helps, and reach out if not. Take care.